close-up look at NetBackup. I would like to point out that this presentation will include a live demonstration of some key features that NetBackup offers. These demonstrations will be in line with the presentation, so stay tuned. We will be showing auto image replication, Windows client backup and restore from a remote site, Exchange backup and message level restore, VMware single pass backup and file restore, and SQL Server backup and restore. So let's start here with a little bit of a background on NetBackup. And as we all know, that Symantec has always been known for its deep technology base and its legacy understanding of files and file systems. This long-standing capability has given Symantec the unique ability to see within the backup data stream and understand what the application is and what the data format looks like. This level of intelligence allows NetBackup to select on-the-fly deduplication algorithms that give NetBackup the unique ability to perform a true single-pass backup and recovery of both images and files using Symantec's granular recovery technology. NetBackup also employs intelligent deduplication, which optimizes deduplication rates, requiring less computing power and therefore resulting in lower costs. Also provides a deduplication platform or roadmap that can be enhanced and fine-tuned over time as data types and applications change within your environment. Now, other dedupe vendors like EMC, they use a variable window approach because they actually can't see what the data stream looks like. So they resort to varying the block size and then taking a best guess at what the optimum deduplication algorithm might be. This is computationally intensive and requires significantly more power to prevent performance bottlenecks. So the bottom line, with NetBackup, you'll get faster backup and restore across virtual and physical environments. Now this slide looks a little busy, so I'm just going to talk to the slide itself. The transformation of the data center is a continual process. We all know that. The NetBackup platform is designed to evolve as you evolve and provide solutions to those new and emerging technologies that you may use within your organization. NetBackup gives you the power to transform the operating model of your data center today, the flexibility to optimize your own unique workloads, plan for the future, and deploy the future, typically with the ease of a mouse click. Now, how does NetBackup do this? It does it through appliances. NetBackup appliances are seamlessly integrated into the NetBackup platform, whether it's a new installation within your environment, fast deployment of NetBackup infrastructure to upgrade your current NetBackup environment, or easy migration from non-NetBackup local or global site to NetBackup due to a merger or acquisition. Now, for IT self-service, data protection is critical to any organization. That's a given. And you need it to work, and you need it to work fast. Back up once and be able to recover anytime, anywhere. That's what NetBackup does. NetBackup has taken the complexity out of the backup and recovery and extending the concept of self-service recovery portals, eliminating trouble tickets, emails, occasional operator error. All this so less skilled resources can manage and respond to the demands of the enterprise on a daily basis. Now, search and recovery for compliance. NetBackup enables fast, easy search and hold and recovery capabilities, meaning faster and lower cost e-discovery, better retention management, and the ability to quickly search and restore file level requests. Now this is a snapshot here of our demo environment that we will be showing today. As you can see here in the NetX demo environment, we have a data center, we have a remote office, and we have a disaster recovery site. At each one of those locations, there's different architectures. We have Exchange over at the data center. We have Linux at the data center, VMware at the remote office, along with SQL and a Windows client. And with that, very briefly, we'll be showing an Exchange backup to the local 5220, message level restore. We'll be showing a Linux backup from the data center, replication to the DR site, and offload to tape, VMware backup to the local 5220 in the remote office, and a file level restore. We were showing a SQL backup and restore at the remote office, and also a Windows client backup with a replication to the data center and the DR site, both offloading to tape upon completion. We will be referring to this diagram throughout the demonstration so we can actually see what it is that's actually taking place as the jobs run. Now, if you noticed in the demo environment, we have 5220s there. Currently, the 5230 appliance is currently shipping. Now, the dimensions of the 5230 are identical to the 5220 in that we have a 2U base unit, 2-rack unit base unit. Each storage cell is 3 rack units. A fully configured 5230 would be 8 rack units. Usable capacity anywhere from 4 terabyte in the base unit to 76 terabyte and a fully configured 5230. Dedupe capacity is up to 64 terabyte. And the 5230 appliance can be used as a master server or a media server through an external master. It can be used for SAN clients with fiber channel. Supports 10 gig Ethernet and replication. Now this slide just is showing the capabilities of the 5230 appliance. So we'll go over briefly the capabilities of the 5230. Well, we know it's an integrated backup appliance. Built-in source or media server deduplication. We spoke about up to 64 terabyte of dedupe capacity per 5230. Expandable to 76 terabyte total capacity. Tape-out capability through fiber channel. Replication. Hardware monitoring and call home services. Auto image replication for DR readiness. Fiber channel media server support. And cloud gateway support. Now you have multiple connectivity options here on the 5230, as you did the 5220 as well. Gigabit Ethernet is supported, 10 gig is supported, and 8 gig fiber channel. And we can grow that through the use of port bonding for higher throughput with the gigabit and 10 gigabit Ethernet interfaces. So let's talk a little bit about auto image replication and what that is. In this diagram here, we see on the left side we have a production data center number 1. On the right side, we have a branch office, a remote office, and a production data center number 2. Now, what this diagram depicts is domain B, C, and D, which are the branch, remote, and second production data centers, are all replicating to domain A. And which this means here is if you needed at any time to stand up one of your clients that failed maybe at domain B, C, or D, you could do that immediately at domain A. Now, disaster recovery standby sites and tape-off siting is costly and it's slow. NetBackup platform can change that by automating disaster recovery, accelerating recovery in disaster recovery scenarios, making cost reduction simple and easy. So consolidating global disaster backup and recovery was never easier or faster. So how is this done? NetBackup will back up the data, duplicate the data for both efficient storage and cost-effective replication over local and wide area networks. Makes data and applications from multiple remote sites and domains available for fast restore from the local domain. Essentially, taking out the need for any DR site such as SunGuard. Makes it obsolete. So if you leverage your existing secondary data centers and use NetBackup, you're reducing your overall cost because there is no need for a DR site anymore. Production sites can do double duty as DR for other production sites. You have on-demand recovery of replicated data, automatically manage replication of dedupe backup images at one domain or another. And this is all done through policies, and we will take a look at that. Now, one other feature that is pretty nifty when it comes to a DR scenario, we'll take a look at this slide right here, showing we have a New York headquarters, we have New Jersey, and we have Connecticut, and we have 5230s at each site. If you notice the black lines, the black arrows, each one of these sites is acting as disaster recovery for each other. They're actually replicating to both targets. All right. So Connecticut is replicating to New York and New Jersey, New York to New Jersey and Connecticut, and New Jersey to Connecticut and New York. So if any node happens to fail, any server happens to fail in any one of these sites, say you lost a server in New Jersey, you have the option to put it up in Connecticut or New York, whichever is the best option for you. So let's take a look at auto image replication in action. So what we have here, just to show you, we have the interfaces for each one of our sites. All right, we have the remote site, 5220 remote. We have the data center site, and we have the DR site. So if we take a look at our diagram, all right, what we're going to show here is a Linux backup and replication to the DR site, and a Windows client backup from the remote office to both the DR site and the data center, all of them offloading the tape when they're done. All right, so if we go to the remote site and we look at our policies there, we'll see we have the Windows client policy. We'll kick that off. And the other Linux backup was at the data center site. So we'll go ahead and kick that off. All right, so the backup here is running on the Windows client. And we'll check the activity monitor here, and we see the Linux backup is also functioning right now. So let me give you a little bit of insight as to how and what the magic is here for auto image replication. At the remote site, as we can see in our diagram, we're going from the remote 5220 to the data center and the DR site. So how does NetBackup know how to do that? All right, if we take a look at the storage server, and we take a look at the replication tab here, right, and this will take a minute to come up. All right, we will see that the targets are defined within here. And this is how NetBackup knows how to send its data. As you can see, the target sites for the remote are the data center and the DR site. And the magic that actually makes that happen is called storage lifecycle policies. All right, and this replaces your standard storage units such as disk and tape within your NetBackup policy. And what this does, we'll take a look at it here, is the first operation that's being performed is a backup. Once the backup is done, a replication will take place to the two targeted 5220s that we had seen in the last window. Now, one thing I want you to note here is that the retention type for the backup is set to expire after copy. So once the replication is complete, the local copy here is going to expire. So the image will not reside on this server. What we will do in the restore, we will restore from a remote 5220 back to its original location right here at the remote site. So let's see how we're progressing. Okay, the backup is done here, and both backups are done. So shortly after that, the replications will start up. Should be a minute or two before it kicks off. I'd like to point out also that in NetBackup 7.6, it gives you more control over when these replications take place. In 7.5, the replications pretty much had a mind of its own. You have some control over when the replications take place by adjusting the settings on the appliance itself. You can tell it how long to wait before it starts a replication. And That could be anywhere from a minute to, however long you want, an hour. Within 7.6, they have incorporated now storage lifecycle policy windows, similar to the windows used in backup policies within NetBackup, but you can actually define the windows when you want your replications taking place. So they don't necessarily have a mind of its own anymore. You have the control over it. And that's a neat little feature. So we have the replication taking place here. Let's see how we're doing at the data center site. That replication is not yet kicked off. So the replication should take somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes, I think. And these are set to kick off rather quick, these replications. So as you can see, this one just started now. And again, the data center site is where the Linux backup was. So that's being replicated to DR. And this is the Windows client here being replicated to both the DC data center site and the DR site. So I appreciate your patience here. This is a demo environment, so we it should take just a couple of minutes, that's all. And you can see here, as expected, the activity monitor will show you the deduplication rate that has occurred for your backups. And in this case, because it's such small files and they're ASCII text, that you'd expect a high deduplication rate. And you will, pretty much for most applications, you will find a pretty high deduplication rate. I've actually seen Exchange deduplication rates up near 80%. In very busy environments, which is exceptional. Okay, so and each one of these jobs, you can actually take a look at the actual job details. Pop into detailed status, you can see exactly what it's doing. And right here, this is backing up the Windows. This is the Linux client here that it's working with on the replication. And you can see that's using storage server, the data center right here. And if you look at the remote, you'll see where it's sending the data. It's sending the storage to the data center device and the DR device both. And we saw that in that window when I showed you how the targets were defined. Let's see which one finishes first here. Now, once again, while this is going on, let's take another look at our diagram, because I know that I probably didn't leave this up long enough. But as you can see, what's happening right now is the Linux backup has been performed to the local 5220. The replication is now occurring over to the 5220 at the DR site. The Windows client backup has been completed, and its replication is now being completed to the DR site and the data center itself. If you look at the legend down here, and this might give you a little better idea of what's going on, okay? We can see the colored arrows, and we can see how they're defined and what's actually happening here. Right, the VMware backups in gray. We'll get to that later. SQL backups, Windows backups in light blue. Replication in green and red. And backup and replication in yellow for the Linux server. Dark blue is the Exchange GRT backups, which we will be performing in a later demo, or later on in this presentation. All right, so the replication is now completed here at the remote site. And you can see here that the import of that replication is actually occurring now at the data center site. And the import should be kicking off here momentarily at the disaster recovery site. So let's take a look. I want to remind everybody that just refresh everyone's memory that we had set this to expire after copy. Okay? Once that replication is done, that image should be out of the catalog. All right? Now the image is still showing up here, and probably because the import is not completed yet, or the import hasn't even started here. So we'll give that another moment. Once we're guaranteed to have a saved copy, then the local image will expire. Now, one thing I wanted to show is we took a look at the storage lifecycle policy on this end, where we're doing a backup and a replication. So you might be asking, how does it know on the other end what to do? So we go to the other end, and we take a look at the storage lifecycle policy there of the same name, which is here. You can see that it's performing two different functions. It's performing an import, and upon completion of the import, it's performing a duplication. Now, keep in mind, you have full control over the retention periods for every one of these backups. All right, these can all be changed. Okay, while you may want to keep your backup locally for a month, maybe you don't need it for a month over at your DR site, because your DR site, you want your latest and greatest data to be there. All right, so you have the ability to change all that, and you can change all that right here within the storage lifecycle policy. All right, so the import is done there now. Okay, so now let's take a look and see if our image is still around. And it is. So that means that this didn't finish yet. Yes, this hasn't even kicked off yet. So if we take a look here, at this storage lifecycle policy, which is, well, that's doing an import. And let's go back to the DR, to the remote site, and look at its storage lifecycle policy. All right, this backup here, we can set the retention site to here, Again, I have it for expire after copy. We can choose fixed, and we can choose how long we want our retention period to be. But in this case, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to keep it as expire after copy. All right, and there's our import kicking off over at the DR site. And actually, you can see we have two imports kicking off now. And once again, if we refer to our diagram, that's because one is the Linux box being replicated. The other one is the remote office being replicated. Okay, so it looks like the import of the Linux box is done. So now if we take a look at the catalog here, all right, we'll see that that image now resides here, as does the client. So that must have either finished or it's in the process of finishing. So let's wait for that to complete. And again, if we take a look at the job details here on what's going on, you can get a little idea of what it is that's happening here. This is the Windows client backup ID that's being imported this time. Okay, so now the import is complete. Now we can go back to the remote site. We can check the catalog. And as you can see, that image is no longer available. Okay, found no images on the local server. So let's go ahead and do a restore now. Now we can't do the restore from here simply because the backup image doesn't exist from here. So we can go to either the DR site or the data center site where the backup image does reside, and we can do the restore from there. All right, so we'll go ahead and choose our client. And this is a standard Windows policy. And we can see our image comes up here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, let's go in here to our Windows client, which we're going to restore. And these are the documents here that we had backed up, so let's get rid of those. And then let's go ahead and commence with the restore. And we'll restore both of those documents back. All right. We're going to restore everything to its original location. We'll fire off the restore. And we'll check the process there. As you can see, the duplications now have taken place. Those images are now being cut to tape. And we'll keep an eye on this directory as the restore progresses. Now keep in mind that this restore is coming from the disaster recovery site 5220, running back over the WAN to the remote office to the original location. And there are our files. The restore is done. Our files are back. Okay, so that in a nutshell is auto image replication and a restore from a remote site back to the original location at essentially another remote site. So let's get back to the presentation. And we'll talk a little bit about Exchange. Now, all right, this slide is just a quick summary of the information that's going to follow in the following slides. These 4 points should be fairly self-explanatory. Exchange now is, now with Exchange 2010, Microsoft has built up data availability groups to be used in there, rather than just a standalone 2010 server or standalone Exchange server. So NetBackup fully supports Exchange 2010. Backup and data from passive DAG nodes, all right, that would be the first choice. That's what NetBackup is going to back up from, the passive node first. And it'll continue to back up from passive nodes until if it fails. If we look at the bottom point here, if a backup fails, it'll go to the next replica and back up from that one. And if that one fails, go to the next replica, back up from that one, and use the production node as a last resort. All right, automatic detection of the Exchange 2010 DAG environment. And that's pretty much it. This is pretty self-explanatory right here. So let's get into a little more detail about 2010. And this slide describes Exchange 2010 in a nutshell in the use of data availability groups. As most of you may be aware, DAGs don't work like traditional clustering applications. It doesn't use a shared volume between the cluster nodes. Instead, the data is replicated on all nodes. So each node has a complete copy of a given database. This approach allows multiple Exchange servers to function as failover nodes to databases located on other Exchange servers. In effect, providing an active-active architecture and some degree of load balancing. When a DAG database becomes unavailable for whatever reason, whether it's due to a server failure or loss of a disk, another DAG replica will take over. This means that you can have several Exchange servers, each carrying part of the overall load, each prepared to take over if one of the other servers goes down or loses a database for any reason. And these replicas can reside in different physical locations, even different data centers if the network connections are fast enough. So while Microsoft may contend that DAGs will eliminate the need for traditional backups, well, the truth is that DAG is not a complete backup solution because it doesn't offer any historic data storage. So if your database becomes corrupt, it will rapidly propagate its corruption to all its replicas, leaving you with really no good data. And backing up a DAG database from a passive replica rather than an active copy effectively provides a quasi-off-host backup, if you will. The active Exchange database is not touched during the backup unless it's absolutely necessary, So there's no impact at all on production. And this helps ensure stability within the environment. So because there may be, again, several DAG replicas of a single database, the backup may come from any one of several different locations. If one is unavailable for any reason, NetBackup will automatically retry the backup using a different replica. Now, in the past, years ago, it used to be common practice to actually put media server software on your Exchange server, so it'll write directly to the disk. All right. You don't see that too much today with 10 gig networks, but we did see that in the past, and it's still an option today. So, installing the media server software in Exchange server, that's an option to increase backup performance because you bypass the LAN and you write directly to the disk. Within NetBackup 7.5 and 7.6 going down the road, we have new master server properties, and again, because for the reason that DAG databases reside on multiple servers, it's not always obvious which server is the most appropriate during a restore operation. NetBackup 7 allows administrators to enter a list of preferred servers within the policy this is done for each DAG database. This is especially important when NetBackup's granular recovery technology is used when we're doing message level restores. GRT backups must go to disk. By default, NBU catalogs all mailbox information during the duplication of a GRT image to allow browsing of mailboxes even if the image resides only on a duplicated image on a tape. And while you can browse that tape image for restores, it's still necessary to duplicate that image to disk first. This can be time-consuming, especially for very large databases. So we offer the option to turn off this feature. All right, and this was done in NetBackup 6.5. This was done in the registry. NetBackup 7 is simply a master server properties checkbox. This is a screenshot of the distributed application restore mapping screen, and because Exchange 2010 uses many hosts, this mapping feature right here will actually tell NetBackup, okay, what's the preferred host for restores. So the way this is set up here is the application host, as you can see here on the left-hand side, will always be your DAG, and the component hosts will be every node that is involved in the 2010 infrastructure. Your Exchange servers and your CAS servers will all get included in here and all point to the DAG. So that's a little bit about how NetBackup will work with Exchange 2010. Now, this is a list of various NetBackup Exchange agent backup methods and how they work or won't work with a DAG. Supported are local VSS snapshot backups and GRT-enabled backups. Not supported for DAGs, alternate client VSS snapshots and instant recovery VSS snapshots. However, they are supported if you're using 2010 in a non-DAG scenario. Just wanted to point that out as well. All right, so let's take a look at backing up Exchange and restoring from a message level. So take a look at our diagram again. We'll see our Exchange server resides in the data center. We'll be backing up locally. We'll be restoring messages from the message level back to the Exchange server. All right, so let's go to the data center where our Exchange backup resides. And let's kick that off. All right, so we see the backup is running. Okay, and the backup is done. So let's go ahead and restore now that node. We'll select our node. Okay. And we know this is a Exchange Server backup. And we see our backup here. And from that single pass, we see the granular backup. And we can see all the mailboxes, and we can choose ours. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to remove these messages. Okay. And we will go here, and we'll just grab the top of the information store and restore that to that account. And let's kick off the restore. All right, so the restore is active. And while we see that still running, we should see these messages just pop back in. This completely eliminates the need for an off-host backup of the information store just to retrieve a single message. And here are our messages back. So what we have just seen right here, again, an Exchange backup to the local 5220 through NetBackup, recovering single messages. In this case, it was the top of the information store, back to the Exchange server, and the messages have returned. Okay, what I'd like to also show you is I'd also like to show I know I don't have any slides on this, but I'd like to show a SQL backup and restore as well. All right, now a SQL backup is here. I want to show you that and how that works. So we'll do a manual backup on the SQL. And again, we can take a look at the detailed status of the job. And this, I believe, is somewhere around 1.4 gig, I believe. And you can see here our throughput. We're getting 47 megabytes a second, which is pretty nice. Especially in the demo environment, it's pretty nice. And it should be just about done now. Okay, so there's our SQL backup. Once again, a expected high deduplication rate. And let's go take a look at a restore. So what we'll do here is we'll open up the NetBackup SQL client. All right, click on File, select Restore Objects. You can select your date range right here for the restores. Hit OK. Your restore window comes up. You select your backup. You select the restore selected object. You have options here: create or move a template, or verify but do not restore. We'll do that for now. It's basically it's the same thing as a restore, basically verifying the image. And we will kick that right off. So you can see how a restore is started. And you can see how throughput popped up to around 70 megabytes per second here for reading. And it looks like we're just about complete here. So there you have it. You have a SQL backup and restore. Very simple, very easy. A few mouse clicks. So what have we seen so far? So far we've seen Exchange and a message level restore, Linux backup replication, offload to tape, Windows client, backup, replication at 2 different sites, and a restore from a remote site back to the original location. And that's what we've seen so far. So we'll get back to the presentation. And let's talk a little bit about VMware. Now, we spoke about this earlier. Actually, the way, through Symantec's technologies, the way it can see files and file systems, and the way it actually sees a data stream compared to our competitors here. All right, NetBackup can actually see the file structures within the data stream as it's backing up, which enables them to do a single pass backup and recovery. Extremely fast. Intelligent deduplication, uses less computing power, and utilizes the deduplication platform. All right, so some might be our competitors. What they see just a data stream. That's it. They don't know what's in the data stream. So recovering from that is a multi-step process. You have to bring back that data stream, and then you have to bring up the client. Then you have to just go grab the files that you need, and that's that. But it's a time-consuming process, uses more computing power, and there's really no growth potential there. There's no way to move forward from there. So some might be asking, what is VRay actually? Well, VRay is a name for a group of Symantec technologies that give customers the additional visibility into their virtual machines and applications. This unified protection allows you to more confidently secure, protect, run, and recover business-critical systems while reducing complexity and cost that can result by having multiple point solutions, such as Veeam, for example, which simply just does a virtual machine backup. Why have many different solutions in your environment when you have one solution that can take care of everything? All right, you have transparent backup and recovery. The data stream is seen both physical and virtual deployments, not just virtual. And one thing I need to point out here is that a NetBackup agent is not required on your virtual machines in order to do this, in order to retrieve a file level restore. It's not required unless you're running SQL or Exchange or SharePoint on your virtual machines. Those will require an agent. But anything else, file servers do not require agents. And let's jump back to the demo here. Looks like we're making pretty good time, actually. And if we take a look at our environment again, we'll see that VMware resides in the remote office. So let's go to the remote office, which is here. Select our policy, our VMware backup, a manual backup, and let's kick that off. Now, what this is backing up, a virtual XP client. And as you can see, it's taking a snapshot first before it does the actual backup. This is all done on the NetBackup media server. Now, if we take a quick look at the policy itself, all right, the VMware policy, we can see that it is, the policy type is VMware. And what makes it nice and neat here is if you wanted to choose clients, right, you say select manually. I think this is pretty neat. It's worth showing. You can actually browse your virtual machines. You browse your ESX server or virtual machines or vCenter server for the clients. Now, in this demo, of course, we only have one client, but there could be multiple clients on this ESX server. And you can just point and click, choose them, and bang, you populate your policy like that. All right, so this is probably somewhere close to 3 gigs, so let's see how that's making out.
Jeff, did you mute your line by accident?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you know what? I did. All right, so let's go back to what I was saying here. Is we can actually choose virtual machine backup, and we can actually This is our VMDK file right here. We can restore the full VMDK file, or we can choose normal backups, and we can get granular right down to the files. Now, this is done all without the NetBackup client. All right, so in this case, what we'll do, let's go into our client for a second. And bring up Windows Explorer. And this is the directory we backed up here. Let's get rid of these guys. Okay, so they're gone. And now let's go ahead and restore those documents. All right, we'll put everything back with the original location. And you do have the option of restoring to an alternate location on all your restores, regardless of what the application may be. So there's the restore. Let's let that run. We'll take a look here. And in due time, we should see these documents pop right back up. I know if I go away from this window and I go back to the job just to look at the job details, that these files are going to pop up without us seeing it, so I'll just stay right here. And there they are. So we've successfully done a file level restore from a VMDK backup. Single pass, full recovery. So basically that completes our demo right now. We have seen VMware backed up locally and restored at the file level. Full VMDK backup, restore at the file level. SQL backup and restore, Windows client backup, replication, and restore from a remote site. Exchange, backup and message level restore, and a Linux backup, replication to a remote site, and offload to tape. So that'll pretty much do it for the demo. And I appreciate everybody's time. I'm so glad everybody could join. And I hope this was helpful, and we hope to be hearing from you soon. Thank you so much. Keith?
Yeah, Jeff, we did have a couple questions with the minute we have left, if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay. I think there was one about the how big are the files. I think we showed that, so I don't think we have to address that one, but we can follow up with that person offline. First question, can you configure the rate limiting for the replication jobs?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can. You can actually do that within the appliance itself. You can cut down the bandwidth. You can set the bandwidth that it can use just for replication. Absolutely.
Okay, and last question here. Can SQL be restored to a specific time from the 5250 client? I'm assuming they're asking, can you schedule that restore?
To a specific time, meaning it can be restored from whatever backup images you have, yes. I don't know if that answers the question, but if you have multiple backups, you can actually choose whichever backup you want to restore, which time you actually did the backup. If you're doing multiple backups per day, You can choose the actual backup you need to restore, and you can restore that single backup.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a not just a day, but a specific hour or date.
Specific hour or date. Well, that would have to come from the backups themselves anyway, right? The backups would have to be done. Say if the backups are done every hour, yes, those backups will show for your restore, and you can choose whichever backup you need to restore.
Okay, we'll take that one offline as well. Thanks again, everyone. We will be following up with an email, so you'll be able to download the recording, and if you need to contact us, our information will be in that email as well. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.